Hello guys and welcome to today's episode. In today's video we're going to talk about the history of Afrikaans. Now, what is the history of Afrikaans? One word: spice. Well, it can be spicy, but what I'm referring to is at the end of the Middle Ages, the Renaissance era came into effect, and this meant that there were new opportunities. Now, there was already a trade route established. This was called the Silk Trade. I'm not sure if you really know about the Silk Trade, but basically what this is a network of trading routes from the east to the west, and they traded, well, spice. Now, overland trading was pretty expensive because you see, you have high transport costs and your border crossing even costs more. So the British or the Europeans really had one choice, and that was to lower their costs. They couldn't really up their prices anymore because, at the end, it's all about profit. When you think in older terms or even modern terms, think about money. Big driver. What the Portuguese did is they sent out a man by the name of Bartolomeu Dias. Now, Bartolomeu Dias, he circumnavigated the Cape unknowingly, and he stopped in Mossel Bay. From Mossel Bay, he attempted to reach China. Unfortunately, he turned around along the route and he came back to Europe. A few years later, another man by the name of Vasco da Gama followed in his footsteps. He circumnavigated the Cape of Good Hope, landed in Mossel Bay, and from Mossel Bay, he made it to China. Now, he made it to China and back, hence a trading route was established. Okay, so when you have a new trading route, you have a monopoly opportunity. So the British and the Dutch and the French were not oblivious to this. So what they did is they established their own East India companies, East India companies. Now, today we're going to focus on one East India company, and that's the Vier Oosee. The Vier Oosee is from the Dutch, okay? Because remember, Afrikaans comes from Dutch, so obviously they are the highlight of the story. Now, the Vier Oosee had Jan van Riebeeck among their ranks. And when he traveled around the Cape of Good Hope, he saw an opportunity. He saw the opportunity for wine. So he proposed this as to be an outpost to the Vier Oosee, and they granted him. They granted him the authority to start the colony, not yet, but the outpost to trade. So eventually the outpost turned into a colony. He erected a fort, because of course when you start to live on other people's land, it's pretty controversial and you'll need to defend yourself. Now, as soon as the colony started, the Afrikaans basically started developing. The reason Afrikaans is so close to Dutch and not to any of the other languages is because of the schooling system. Now, the schooling system was in Dutch, okay? So Afrikaans really did not have much room to play with. It was forced to be Dutch. The other language still had an effect. English had an effect, of course, because the old English like to get their fingers everywhere. The French, the Germans, the Dutch, of course, and then indigenous peoples as well as slaves. Now, the slaves were mainly from the east. They were from Malaysia, Indonesia, and those places really influenced Afrikaans as well. So, in the end, Afrikaans was a mix and match of all the languages, and it's classified today as a West Germanic because it's a daughter language of Dutch, because of the schooling system, of course. Now, the next place we'll pick up in history with Afrikaans is 1870. This is 210 years later, give or take. So, or about 8 generations, we are picking the story back up with 3 men: Arnoldus Pannevis, Gasparus Petrus Hogenhout, and Stephanus Jacobus de Toy. They formed together the GRA, the Genootskap vir Regte Afrikaners, or the Fellowship of Real Afrikaans Speakers. They played a major role in officializing Afrikaans as a language. Afrikaans was only officialized in 1925 as an official language, which is 103 years before the release of this video, but they played a key role in the 1870s. Now, please note, they did not invent it. Afrikaans has been developing for about 200 years, give or take, up till this point. So here, Afrikaans really started to diverge from Dutch itself, in the sense that the syntaxes were somewhat different. We had a double negative, and we lost our cases and genders. So, in actuality, Afrikaans is simplified Dutch, of course, adding all the foreign words and adapting it to our own, Afrikaans really is very, very similar to Dutch. Well, it does have its differences respectively, but still. Okay. Now, in the 200 years that have passed, a lot has happened. The Dutch government was overthrown by the British. The Boere were really upset, and they started on their big march, the Groot Trek, a huge event in world history, and they travelled from Cape Town to Johannesburg and Pretoria, where they settled in Pretoria, found gold. 2 wars later, Afrikaans was settled. Okay, scores were settled. Now, along the route were the people also settled. Okay, so Afrikaans, they didn't all go to Pretoria. Along the way, they fell out and they just started living wherever. And today we have a few dialects of our own. We have Standaard Afrikaans, which is the standard we're talking, the standard you write, and the standard that is accepted in Afrikaans. Then we have the Kaaps Hollands, which is the old Hoog Holland and all those things. We don't use that anymore. It's essentially dead. Then we have Afrikaans of Kaaps Afrikaans, which is Cape South African. You can only find this really beneath the colours of the Cape area. They really talk this dialect. And then we have a Griqua Afrikaans. We don't talk like that at all, and I don't think I've really heard someone talk like that. That's a bit more inland. And then we have a fancy dialect from the stereotypical Transvaaler. Transvaal is just the old word for Gauteng and Pretoria and Johannesburg and all those places. So they would talk like this: my ma en my pa, my mother and my father, except in Afrikaans, standard Afrikaans, we just say my ma and my pa. So they tend to overround fancy. Okay. And yeah, that's it. That's a brief, very, very brief, broad overview of Afrikaans itself. I hope you enjoyed it. It took a very long time to make. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll hopefully see you in the next episode.